Just give me your action. All right, guys, you're here with Dr. Charles Webb. Wake Up with Webb, and as promised, I've got an unbelievable, beautiful person here that we're going to be speaking to, and we've got some interesting things to share. Dr. Deb Matthews out in Charlotte, North Carolina, has written a couple of books, one bestseller, and I want her to share those because one of those is going to relate to you women more. This is not normal. I'll let her talk to you about it. And the other one's going to relate to you guys. Why can't I keep up anymore? And a guy being 59 years old, one of the things we never want is not to be able to keep up with life, especially, if we still want to, I've got a young son who's 15, and I got to tell you, it's my responsibility, number one, to keep up. But man, I love snow skiing with him. I love hanging out. And in fact, this morning, he runs cross country, and I got to go over to the school and cook pancakes and eggs and all that. And it's just nice being a part of life. And so I'm going to have Deb share that, but she's got some interesting story on her own personal challenges. And the people that tend to come to this are people that do want to live consciously and understand we have a lot of life in us, a lot of greatness in it. And so the people that I choose to come on here, I'm always looking for people that chose to live and not be the status quo, that want to do high performance in their life as a whole, not just in their business, but their family, their fitness, and everything else. So Dr. Deb, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. We've worked with you for how many years now?
Over 6 years.
Over 6 years. And you have really made us look good. You've done a great job in building your life, building your practice. And I want to get right into this. And I do like to share your books because it's an area that someone can go get. And I do want them to know where to get this. But the first book you wrote, I love the title. This is not normal, right? The world today. But tell us a little bit about your book and what inspired you to write This Is Not Normal.
Well, I work with a lot of women who just don't quite feel good. Like they're not necessarily sick, they don't have a disease, but they're just not sleeping well, their energy's not good, they feel bloated, they just can't lose weight, even if they're not, eating a terrible diet. They feel anxious, depressed. They just don't feel normal. And they know they don't feel normal, but they don't really understand what's going on. And when they march into their doctor to complain about how they're feeling, either they walk out the door with a prescription for a sleeping pill or an antidepressant, or they're told everything looks normal. And how frustrating is that?
Yeah. So, and I know you've experienced it before. Before I go with this anymore, I apologize. I want to introduce you appropriately. You know about this, and you have a background, and you've been in that traditional side of things. Tell us what your background is. And I guess what hit you over the head to say, wait a minute, this isn't normal, the way that I practice.
Yeah. Well, originally, I was a pediatrician, actually, and I practiced pediatrics for 10 years. And I was happy, I suppose, but I didn't feel good. I was tired all the time, and I was losing it with my kids, and then feeling so guilty for always shrieking at them, because that's not the kind of mom that I wanted to be. And my husband is really the one that put up with my Wicked Witch of the West impersonation, as usually the husbands are, right? But nothing in my medical training helped me understand what was happening to me, why I couldn't control my weight, and why I wasn't sleeping, and why I was anxious all of a sudden. I never was anxious for the first 35 years of my life. And now all of a sudden I was waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. And what really changed my life is my husband came across a book. It was called The Sexy Years, and it was written by Suzanne Summers about women's hormones. And he suggested that, he could see all these points on the back cover, that all were relevant to me. And he suggested that I might want to read this book. And as I know that medical doctors are really not that interested in getting our medical information from celebrities, right? I mean, Suzanne Summers, that's what I thought. Like, seriously, are you kidding me? But I knew that this was not normal, how I was feeling. I knew something had to be done, and I was at a complete loss. They didn't teach me at medical school what I needed to know. And so I read the book, and that book changed my whole life, because when I read the book and I read the stories about the women in the book who were just like me, and how much better they felt when they got their hormones balanced, it really allowed me to open my mind, because suddenly everything really made sense. You know, my problem was that I have Hashimoto's. I was hypothyroid, and it took many years to, first of all, get a diagnosis at all. And then they put me on Synthroid. That's the standard pill, right, that everybody gets. And my lab test became normal, but it wasn't making me feel normal. I still had all of the same symptoms. And so I learned there's all these other things that we can do in order to really restore thyroid function and really treat that. And at the same time, now I was in my late 30s and my female hormones were starting to shift too. And so that was causing the anxiety and the sleeplessness and the irritability. And I wasn't myself. And so once I understood what the problem was, then I was able to go find the help that I needed to get myself back to feeling normal again. And I can tell you that once my hormones were balanced, I got my energy back, my kids got their mom back, my husband got his wife back, and I got my life back, and everything has been different since then.
So interesting. You came out of medical school, and again, we know this. We know that 99% of individuals that go through the medical, they go in with a big heart and good intentions. And unfortunately, the medical schools teach disease management, and they don't teach health. And so what's interesting, you found that out through a celebrity, but you said that you found someone to help you. So you found a doctor that had gone through a different type of education, like postgraduate, and this is what you ended up doing. Can you? What is that?
Yeah, so I found how my entryway into this is I found the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, A4M, which is a place that actually trains doctors in how to practice medicine in a different way and how to really look for the root cause of the symptoms instead of just treating the symptoms with drugs, which is mostly just putting a Band-Aid on the symptoms, right? And it's, you know, then you end up with the side effect of the first drug, and we kind of go around and around. But so I learned that there was this whole other kind of doctor, and that there is a path where you can learn how to become that kind of doctor. And I just fell in love with it. I thought that's what I was going to medical school to learn. I mean, really, I felt like I got bamboozled. I felt like I got ripped off. I went to medical school to learn this, but they taught me that. And at the time I had no idea that I was missing all of this.
Yeah. And it's a tragedy, because if you do your research, you find out that back early on, medical schools, you know, people that wanted to be a doctor, they had to find the money to go through, and medical schools really weren't getting the funding they needed. So the big pharmaceutical companies saw an entry, and they came in and said, we'll help give you grants, but we're going to put your curriculum together. You're going to teach people that every disease has a drug matched up to it. And so a lot of doctors that go through the schooling don't recognize that pharmaceutical companies kind of own the medical schools. And like you said, they feel bamboozled, because instead of learning, okay, here's a disease, how do I work with the individual and understand what went wrong with them? And how do I support them, not just as a doctor, but as a coach, and help them with lifestyle changes and things like this? And there's a lot of doctors that they don't know what you know yet. They haven't found the functional medicine, you know, anti-aging. It's not just anti-aging. I know that's what they're called, but it's wellness, right? It's lifestyle. Yeah. And they haven't got to the point of understanding to the level you have and done the studies, but they stay frustrated because they know that they don't have the confidence to help people get where they need to get. And it's sad. So the model itself, it's not that the doctors don't have the big hearts. The system's not been built for the patient. It's not been built for the doctors. And yes, everyone gets bamboozled. So, but by going through this, and then you learned, okay, there's a better way. Now that you knew the truth, you couldn't go back. So you had to go through your studies. And did you go through A4M?
I did. I did A4M, and I did IFM, Institute of Functional Medicine.
So Functional Medicine Institute of Functional Medicine. So you got this training. And I always tell, doctors, look, guys, it's worth doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's not difficult. It's just the right way to do things. And then you finally get to work with people and know with complete confidence that you get to work with the miracle of the body and not the so-called miracle of the drug. The body can outperform the drugs any day, right?
Yeah.
So
and it's really, it has touched all the members of my family, you know, we all had things going on and we didn't really know, but we've all been able to have changes because now we know a different approach. And so it's really been very beneficial, even just to my own immediate family and our own health.
Yeah. I wish every doctor knew this. I wish they did, because I believe the majority of them would move forward with it, you know. But the challenge is, and maybe you felt this way, there's a lot of people, lay people, that don't know about you. And later on, I want to make certain they get your information. But there's doctors all over the states that we work with. But it's the people know that you exist. They just don't know how to find you, right? They know that there's a doctor that knows that they're frustrated, that they can have empathy, because they, especially with women, because you're a woman. And I love that you wrote that book, This Is Not Normal. And but doctors themselves too, they're afraid because they don't know how to make an income outside of being attached to the insurance system. And I don't know if you completely detach yourself, but I know a big part of your practice is cash based, and you do it. I know what you do. You do very well. You've been very successful. How has that worked out for, number one, your patients? The kind of practice, and I know you're doing virtual too because of lockdown, and that's worked out. But how is this new approach, even though your patients, in many cases, I mean, I think you still take insurance, I think, or something?
I do not, no.
Okay, so you're 100%. A lot of people go, oh, well, people won't pay for the healthcare. Number one, that's the question. And number two, well, I just don't know, how I'm going to make it, because it's like that insurance is their blanket. And again, insurance doesn't pay for healthcare. And if patients knew that, if they knew all they're going to get is drugs and diagnose and not get the expert advice they need, they wouldn't want to use it. So have you found any challenge at all with people stepping up and coming to you and seeing it as an investment of both their time and money?
Well, of course, some people don't understand, but as a general statement, we are busy. It was a journey to get to this point, because it's not that the patients aren't willing to invest in their health. It's that we, as the health practitioners, have to be able to help them to understand why they need to be investing in their health. And that's a skill that we need to learn, because we're not trained to do that at medical school. You know, we're trained to make a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so when I first learned about all of this, and I was so excited, and I was so naive, and I was so excited about starting my practice. So I opened my practice, actually, I saw my first patient January of 2007. And we started off with no insurance. And way back then, like, there was nobody else doing this around us yet. And I remember being completely terrified. And at the time, I wasn't even so much terrified about running the business and being successful, because I just believed, how could it not be successful? This is so the right thing to do. But I was terrified about practicing medicine in a different way. I didn't have confidence. I would wake up in the middle of the night with panic attacks, worried about, was I doing the right thing? Would anybody want to come and see me? It was very difficult to change my identity, because really, when we are doctors, that's kind of our identity. And so it's almost like changing your identity. And it was hard, but I just knew with every fiber in my being that this was the right thing to do. And I remember I had gone to another doctor's office to shadow them, to see how they did it. It was somebody in Detroit. And I remember sitting in her office, and I would see women coming in, and it was their first appointment to come see her. And they would bring fans because they were having hot flashes, or they'd bring a face cloth and wipe the sweat off their forehead. They were just miserable, in tears, just a mess. And then I would see them come back. Maybe this was somebody now on their second follow-up visit, and they were feeling so much better and they had hope. And then there are the women who'd come in, and they'd been to see her for 5 years, and they felt great and they were so happy. And that was a moment that I really sat there and I realized, I have to do this. How can I not do this? Who's going to help these people if it's not me? Because there's not enough of us to know about this kind of doctor to go around. And so that was really when I realized this can't be a hobby, or this can't be something I just do with my family, that I really felt sort of a moral obligation to be able to help people, since I now knew what I knew. And when I first opened the practice, I knew nothing about running a business. I knew nothing. I had always been an employee. My most recent job, I worked at the public health department 2 mornings a week while I had my young children. And so I opened my doors, and it was really hard because when I didn't have anybody to guide me, I didn't have a coach, I didn't have anybody to teach me how to run the business. And I lost a lot of money in the beginning. And the only reason that I kept going was this unshakable faith that I was doing the right thing. And I had to find a way to make it work. And really, eventually, the turning point for me, we got better and we got better, and we grew and we grew until the point where then I was exhausted, because then I had all these patients. Because it is true that when you help people and they feel better, they go tell their friends and their sister-in-law, and then so I had lots of patients, but I was so exhausted. I didn't get lunch breaks and bathroom breaks. I was just trying to keep up looking after everybody. And I ended up going home after work, and I would still be doing my charts at night after I put my kids to bed. It was just not the quality of life that I wanted. And I wasn't really living authentically, because here I'm telling my patients, you need to manage your stress, you need to look after yourselves. And then there I am at 11 o'clock at night still charting. And what really transformed my practice was when I started working with you and learning how to manage my team and how to run a business, because doctors can only help people, first of all, if the general public knows that they need what we have to offer. So there's an education component. And then we also have to be able to keep the lights on, because we can't help anybody if we go out of business. But it's been so rewarding, and our patients have such transformations. I mean, I'd love to tell you some stories about some of the patients, because it really, this is life-changing.
We have time. In fact, I was going to ask you, because I think what people want to hear, number one, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of women, a lot of men, that they know it's not normal, right? They know that, and you explained some things. You actually had you had Hashimoto's. So for the listeners, that's an autoimmune condition that's more common than you might believe. And that's why thyroid medication doesn't always work so well. But so for that person, I wanted to understand that the way that you work with them is you're a coach, you're empowering them. You're not in the old model, the doctor's supposed to fix me. That's not realistic. And so it's something that if they're willing to co-labor with you, they get a life, right? And then on the practitioner side, for practitioners who are listening, you don't have to feel like you're chained. You don't have to depend on insurance companies. I can tell you this, insurance companies and big pharma and hospitals, they don't want other doctors to find out about people like Deb Matthews, because they want you to be chained to insurance. And that means if you don't think that you can go out and have a profitable business and work with people on your terms, then they lose their business. They want people to depend on insurance and depend on drugs. And what you've done is you've stepped out and said, insurance isn't going to do what I need to do for my clients, those people who trust me. I'm not going to do what they say, which is paying for the stuff that they can make all this money on. And when you do that, people do see this. I'll be happy to invest, because now it's into me, right? People don't want to pay for disease management. And that's why doctors go, well, people don't want to pay for the healthcare. Yes, they do. They don't want to pay for what you're giving them. They don't want to pay for your stuff, right? So, and you're right. Can doctors can they build a profitable business? Because if you can't, you're stressed out and you can't be there for your patients. So it's a beautiful story. But yes, I would like to hear of a story, because how do you change lives? Give us an example of someone that you can see that there was a big transformation.
One of my very early patients was a lady who was about 40 years old, and she was not unhealthy. She was working hard. She tried to eat her vegetables, and she went to the gym and she worked out, but she wasn't feeling like herself. And she was completely irate over everybody else at work. Everybody else at work was just driving her bonkers, people in the traffic were driving her bonkers. Her husband was driving her bonkers. She was like just constantly on her last nerve. Everything was driving her nuts. And she didn't understand because this was not her personality. She had completely lost interest in any kind of intimacy with her husband. She was exhausted all the time. She was just limping through life. And the way that I hear a lot of women explain how they feel is they're just putting one foot in front of the other, trying to make it through their day. And if something really has to get done today, they'll make it happen. But if it doesn't have to happen today, they usually just kind of leave it by the wayside because they're just not really feeling it. And that was kind of how she was feeling. And I recognized as soon as I started talking to her that she was perimenopausal. Her hormones were shifting. You know, it was causing a lot of these changes for her. And when we were able to get her back in balance, she felt so much better. And I'll never forget the morning when my team called me out to the front desk to show me there's this beautiful bouquet of flowers at the desk. And we're all looking at each other wondering, like, which one of us has a secret admirer? But when we read the card, it was from her husband. And he said, thank you for giving me my wife.
My wife back. Awesome. Awesome. It's not an uncommon story. It's not an uncommon story. And I used to ask people when I was in practice, you know, we would work with them for a given time. And we didn't, and I know you do this too. I put together customized programs for my clients. I know that you do that too. Instead of the sick care model, the boo-boo model, I call it. And so people would work with me. They would dedicate a period of time, and you too. But at the end of it, you know, when we'd have conversations, the same thing, their life was changed, right? And it was going to continue to change. And I would ask them if they would like to share that. So they would share it on video and everything. They said, yes, of course, I want to let people know. But I would ask them, I said, you know, you put a lot of time and effort in. And I said, was it worth it? And they said, absolutely, it's worth it. And I said, and you invested your hard-earned money into this program. I said, well, what do you feel about that? And they would look at me straight face and said, Dr. Webb, you can't put a price tag on where I'm at today. And they would say, you know, what you've done for us, but I always let them know, no, it's what we did together, right? It's what we did together. I mean, you know, I might be the doctor and I had the wisdom to understand what was going on, but you worked with me, you were coachable. And it's the same thing in my business today. I work with doctors like you, but the results come from the results that we got. It wasn't, I didn't fix your practice. We worked together and you were coachable, and you chose not to give up on your dreams. You chose not to live in fear and anxiousness. And you said, no, this is my purpose. I'm going to change lives. I don't want to miss out on talking about men because we've talked about women. I don't want to think the men are left out. You've got another book, Why Can't I Keep Up Anymore? And I love the title again. These are great titles. I want them to be able to know where they can get this book. It's not quite out yet, I don't think.
Not quite out yet. It'll be out soon.
But I'm a guy, as I said, I'm 59. And, you know, I've gone through some changes, and I do some hormone replacement. And I can't imagine, you know, if a guy is going through a stage of life and the hormones are out of balance and they don't know it, I can't imagine, you know, living in a state below where, I mean, I want to live at my optimal state. And if it weren't for the ability to, number one, maximize my own hormones, which I've done, but there does come a time where replacement can be necessary and it can be done. And really, you know, there was one time that, it's dangerous to replace hormone. Well, it's dangerous not to, right? You know this.
Right.
And so you're working with men to not only influence, to get them up to their highest potential, but there's a place for replacement and things like this. And I'd love to just share a little bit, but because you have a lot of men too.
I do. You know, when I first started, I was mostly seeing women, partly because I was female and, you know, women are more likely to go to the doctor than men. But what was happening is now these women are feeling better. They're looking better and losing weight and feeling younger. We get their mojo back. Another husband wasn't keeping up with them anymore. And so then they would come to me and say, hey, Dr. Deb, do you see men? Can you help my husband too? And so I have lots of men in my practice. And I think it's actually harder for men than it is for women to know what's wrong. Because for women, right, we get like our menstrual cycles get messed up, or we start going through menopause, we get these hot flashes, like we kind of sort of have an idea. But for men, it's very gradual. And so just over time, not having the same kind of drive, the same kind of energy, the same kind of focus, but it's subtle because it happens so slowly. Yeah. And so, you know, the kinds of things that I hear all the time is, I just feel older than like I should, or, you know, after I work out, I just feel achy and it lasts for a lot longer than it used to. Like there's just these subtle things. And so it can be really hard to recognize, first of all, that there's actually a problem. So many people come in and they'll say, I guess it's just because I'm getting older. And they're like 42. I mean, if you're 93, then fine, we'll blame it on your age. But you shouldn't feel old when you're in your 40s and your 50s. But there's so much that can be done to really optimize things and get back to feeling like yourself again. But again, as a man, if you go into your doctor, first of all, if you say, I just have lost my drive, I've lost, you know, interest in sex, I've fallen asleep on the couch after dinner, what have they got to offer you? You know, the antidepressants, sleep, they really got nothing.
And again, the same comments come out of, well, you are getting older.
Yeah.
So the doctor's been indoctrinated with that, but then it's a easy out because they don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
So it's instead of them saying, you know what, I apologize, I'm trained in this, I'm not trained in that, which would be the integrity way to handle it. And that's not embarrassing. If you're not trained in it, you're not. Right. But be upfront with the patient and say, I'm not trained in hormones. It seems to me at 42 years old, you should be doing better. I've got a friend of mine, a colleague I can refer you to, but instead, I don't want to look like I don't know so much. So I'm just going to say and that's not how to handle it either. Because then the guy goes out and he's frustrated and he's like, man, is this the way life is? I want to have sexual intimacy with my wife the way I used to. I'm getting fatter even though I'm working out, and it's not good.
Yeah. And, you know, truly, because I was on the other side of the fence, right? I didn't used to know. We don't know what we don't know. And so let's just imagine, well, so I'll give you an example actually of another one of my patients, if that's okay. I have a patient who was probably around about 50 when he came to see me, and he had a high stress job. He was in sales, and, you know, he just was noticing that he wasn't really performing in his job as well, and his energy wasn't good. He never really felt like going to exercise anymore. It was just hard to get himself motivated to do things. And his doctor one year gave him an antidepressant, and then he still wasn't feeling better. So they switched his antidepressant, gave him a sleeping pill, and then his cholesterol started to go up, right? So now he's got to be on Lipitor. So he's just getting these prescriptions. And I remember him telling me his story that he was like literally sitting in his car in the drive-through lane at the pharmacy, looking at these prescriptions in his hand while he's waiting his turn, thinking like, this is not right. This is not, where is this headed? And in those same few years, his wife had been coming to see me, and she was one of those women who'd lost weight. She felt younger, and, you know, she was interested in him and interested in intimacy, and he was having a hard time with his performance. So like it was causing problems. And so he decided he was going to do something different. He was going to take charge of his health because he'd seen it work for her. And he came in to see me. And, you know, when we did our evaluation, we found that his vitamin D was low and his B12 was low and his cortisol was too high and he had all this inflammation. Like, we found real reasons why he wasn't feeling good. And once we helped him with his lifestyle changes and we used some nutritional supplements based on his lab results, he felt great. And, you know, it really changed his life around. But if he had been at his regular doctor's office, his regular, you know, primary care physician would probably be able to identify that stress and, you know, not exercising anymore, that these things were impacting his health. But really all they've got to offer is a comment like, get back to exercise or lower your stress or eat better. But how is that really helpful? Like, is there anybody in America that doesn't know they're supposed to?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's not helpful. So really having the analysis to understand what's going on and having a concrete plan to follow and somebody to coach him through really just made all the difference. He's not on those medicines anymore.
I know. And it really is sad when I hear that, because it's like, if they come to someone like you or one of our clients around the United States, all of you have curriculums, and you too have a book, you know, a couple of books. But there's a curriculum that you don't tell people to work out, you show them. You don't tell people to detox, you show them. You don't tell people nutrition, you show them. And you have a unique customized program for everyone that comes in, whether it's a 28-year-old young man or 60-year-old man or a 45-year-old female. whether they have diabetes, autoimmune, it doesn't matter. The human body is going to move and change when you support it. And so when will that book be coming out?
It should be coming out within the next 2 months. So it's just it's just getting
now on your other book, This Is Not Normal. How can someone get that?
So it's available on Amazon for people who like the copy in their hand.
Okay, This Is Not Normal by Dr. Deb Matthews. That's on Amazon.
On Amazon. And then you can get a free ebook at isityourhormones.com.
Okay, isityourhormones.com. And also, if someone wants to just, maybe they're in North Carolina, or is it okay if someone reaches out to your site?
Of course. The website is signaturewellness.org.
Remember that, guys, .org. Signaturewellness.org. So a couple more questions here. If for doctors that are watching right now, they're obviously intrigued by this, and some of them are already moving into wellness. One of the things too, with the way that you practice, you can go 100% virtual. So the lockdown won't hurt you. You're like, what, 60% virtual now?
Mm-hmm.
And you were 100% for a little while.
We were.
And did you have any downtime at all during the lockdown?
We had a little bit of downtime for a couple of weeks while we were figuring it out. But then we came right back up again, and we've been doing just fine. No change through the pandemic. We've been business as usual and doing very well.
Yeah, all of our clients, I've got so many of them that have said, we're going to stay virtual, because there's a lot of people that prefer it. You don't have to get traffic. They can see people that aren't close to them, but wherever they can find the best of the best like you. And so that's been beautiful. So if for the practitioner out there that's not living a life, because I know that you also, what do you have, a 4-day work week?
I do.
Do you feel like you have a lot of freedoms?
I do. And I take a lot of vacation. My favorite thing to do is to travel to far off exotic locations, not just like the beaten path where everybody else has been. And so I have been able to develop this wonderful team who is great. And so, over time we've added people. So now I can head off to Thailand and hang out with elephants or whatever it is that I really enjoy doing.
Your business will still go.
And the business will still go.
What would you tell them? You faced these challenges, you faced your fear, but you moved. So I'm a doctor and I'm like, well, I'm just not confident. I don't know. What would you tell them? Even if they don't have some of the training, we know it's not difficult to get, but how would you convince me to say you need to pick up stake and you need to learn how to do this?
Yeah, it is so rewarding. I could never possibly go back. I'm working for my patients. I'm not working for an insurance company or a hospital system or a pharmaceutical company. And so it's 100% rewarding. And I think the thing that my number one tip is, you need to find somebody to help you. You need to find somebody who knows what to do to help you do it. So that can look like other practitioners to help you learn how to practice medicine this way, but it also means people who can help you practice, the business aspects, the marketing aspects, all those things that we don't know how to do. There are people out there who know how to do that. So for my first book, I wrote that book and it lived on my computer for 8 years. And it was just sitting there because I didn't really know what to do with it. And I found somebody who helped me get it out to the light of day. And I had my practice, and you guys helped me get my practice to where I needed it to be. And so I have learned that there are things that I'm good at. There are things that I'm not good at. There are things that I know very well. There are things that I just don't know, but there are people out there who do. And so whatever it is that you're wanting to do, whether it's playing piano or changing your medical practice, you need to find the people that can help you.
Yeah, there's what I call, entrepreneurs know this, and you know this because you're an entrepreneur now, is opportunity cost. And in those 8 years, you lost a lot of time off and you lost millions of dollars because you didn't work with someone that knew what they were doing. We call it here at Freedom Practice Coaching, we call it Rubik's Cube in it. And once we've already figured out the Rubik's Cube, you're going to save years and hundreds of thousands of dollars letting us teach you how to do the Rubik's Cube of the ultimate freedom practice, and you participated. You've done great. You're on path with us. Our goal is to change 10 million lives in 10 years, and you're certainly there. What would you tell the person that's looking for a doctor like you? They can find you if they're in the area, but what should they look for?
So usually what I tell people is to look for somebody who practices functional medicine, which means a doctor who's going to look inside your body to figure out how it's functioning. So we're really looking at the root cause. And there are doctors all over the country. We are good doctors, but sometimes we're not good marketers, right? So sometimes it's hard to find us because we don't have the billboards the way the big hospital systems do, but we are out there, and it's really worth finding somebody like that to work with you who can change your life. It's not just that they're going to write you a prescription because you have headaches. It's that they're going to try to help figure out why you're having the headaches so that you don't have the headaches anymore.
Okay. So if you're looking for a doctor like Dr. Deb, if they're in North Carolina, go to signaturewellness.org. That would be the best place. If you're not and you're looking for someone, you guys are welcome to go to our website, freedompracticecoaching.com. You can give us a call. Just let us know, hey, I'm looking for a doctor. We've got over 500 doctors throughout the United States that work very similar to the way Dr. Matthews is, and we'll be happy to try to find a doctor for you. But any last comments? That's something you'd want to share before I let you go back to are you even working today?
This is my day off.
That's what I thought. I said it's Friday. You're probably not working. Yeah. Any last comments?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's the same comment, whether it's somebody who's, a person looking for a practitioner or a practitioner, thinking to change their practice, is that you don't have to put up with feeling this way anymore. Help is available, and you deserve to love the way you feel. You deserve to love your practice. You deserve to love your life. And so if it's not everything that whether it's your health or your practice or your life, if it's not everything that you want it to be, don't stay there. Do something to move it in the right direction.
So live consciously. Okay, guys, I want to thank you for coming to the Wake Up with Webb and enjoying a very, very favorite person of mine that is a friend, and I love you. You've been unbelievable person to have in our family, and you've influenced a lot of the doctors we have here, and you've influenced all of our lives and your life too. So can't wait to see you again when we go back to our live conferences. But thank you from my heart. I really do appreciate you. You know that. And thanks for spending time and sharing this. We can impact some people. And guys, make certain that you if you're a woman, for sure, get This Is Not Normal. If you're a man, Why Can't I Keep Up Anymore? Just write that chart down. That book's going to be coming out, and that's going to be a really good starting place. So enjoy your weekend, Deb. God bless you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching.